on Katie Hammond's expression of dissent.
Quite a very fluid situation.
Absolutely, very and to be honest, I mean, you couldn't have been spot on any better than this, because you see, the Speaker was quite clear that they did not have the numbers to do business. There was no quorum to do what Katie Hammond was expecting the Speaker to do, and that house is a house of rules. They have standing orders, and they are the masters of their own rules. And so if the Speaker had to, with no choice, recall Parliament because the NPP MPs triggered this recall. That's number one. This recall today, the 7th of November, exactly a month away from today, we're going to the polls, was triggered by the NPP. Now, the Speaker had no choice based on the orders of the standing orders of Parliament, recall the House. But then again, those who triggered this recall didn't show up. And then for the House to form a quorum to have the Speaker now make that declaration that Katie Hammond was expecting him to do. Because if the Speaker had gone ahead to do what Katie Hammond was expecting him to do, or was saying that he should do, in the absence of the NPP MPs, that would have been a violation of the standing orders of Parliament as well. But bear in mind that this Parliament, the last sitting of this 8th Parliament, was supposed to end as of the November 14th, which is 7 days away from today. Now, that day, they will go on recess and go and campaign, because we have just 30 days to the elections. Their MPs, a number of them are contesting again, and they are campaigning vigorously. So if you keep calling them, recalling them back, it is not only an expenditure that the state, you and I, are bearing, because whenever Parliament is recalled, you and I pay.
Absolutely.
It is not the state losing money. It's not financial loss to the state. It's financial loss to Roland, to Martin, to Alfred, and to all the cameramen and everybody here.
And to you watching as well.
That's where the concern is. Because if they're supposed to go on recess on November 14, in the next 7 days, what really would it have been able to do? Looking at the urgent business that the MPP MPs listed. Now this so-called urgent business, they haven't showed up because of issues of majority and minority. Who suffers?
Well, that said also, I believe that we all have to take a certain recourse, and that recourse again will have to go back into introspection or retrospection of what the Member of Parliament for South Dine did say this morning. And he reiterated that point on the key point on Saturday, which is that the proceedings of Parliament are recorded in the Hansard of Parliament. Also meaning that the ruling of the Speaker stands. And the Speaker then ruled that the absence of those members of Parliament means that their seats are vacant. If you recall, he did say that the Marshal of Parliament should walk them out.
Right.
Once it is recorded in the Hansard of Parliament, that in the first place then becomes the ruling of the Speaker and the record of Parliament. If the Supreme Court then makes an order that the status quo should stand, it also means that there has to be a reconvening of Parliament for that order to be reversed.
Exactly.
And also subsequently reflecting on the Parliament itself and the standing orders. Indeed, if you go to Order 18 of the current standing order, the new one that currently is being used by Parliament, it says the Speaker shall inform the House of the occurrence of a vacancy of a seat of a member under clause, subsequently mentioning also Article 97. If that is the situation, it means that we needed the members of Parliament on the MPP side of the House to be there.
Absolutely.
For the status quo to remain based on the orders or the ruling of the Supreme Court. And I think that for Katie Hammond also to be saying that they wanted that to be respected irrespective of what the procedures were in Parliament, I think also means that it's a bit unparliamentary.
And you make a very good point where you touch on the fact that there are clear laws that the House must follow. From all intents and purposes, it clearly looks like the Speaker is trying to toe that line. And it would have even been in favor of Katie Hammond and the NPP to at least show up and then draw the Speaker's attention to the fact that he is either misinterpreting the Constitution or he's in error of what the standing orders of Parliament are. You don't even turn up to even give him a hearing. And that in itself is a disrespect to the Speaker of Parliament and to the fact that this is a house of laws. So you are, for lack of a better expression, maybe you are being lawless in what should be a place of law and order. So as it stands, we probably will just have to all wait and see, like we've been doing in the last few weeks. And we have just a month to elections. There are a number of bills that this current Parliament is expected to at least debate on and see how many they could pass. Most important of those bills would be the budget for the first quarter of next month, I beg your pardon, next year or the year after an election. There should be some financing available when the next government takes office. So, I mean, here on the show, we'll try and go quickly through the pending bills before this House is dissolved or before this House rises on the 6th of January 2025, because that's when Parliament, the 8th Parliament, is dissolved for the new one to come in. And Roland will take us through all of the key issues that is expected for this House to consider before they rise. And maybe in our concluding thoughts of this development, I also think that by extension, even the media is being disrespected and, you know, we are being misused, for lack of a better expression, because right from this moment, we are told the NPP side in Parliament is going to have a press conference. Right after that press conference, there will be a response by the NDC. And then they will be doing press conferences. And the substantive issue of, one, bills to be considered, the fact that you need all of these to be done before you rise, has become secondary to them. And that is where I believe that the Supreme Court needs to also reconsider some of these decisions. And Speaker Bagbin yesterday in his address made it clear that the confusion or the controversy that arose in Parliament is an issue that they can jaw and discuss and finalize. It didn't need the Supreme Court to come in. The MPP side is making the argument that so far as it borders on law and the law needs interpretation, then it must go to the Supreme Court. But the Speaker disagrees with that position as well, where he says clearly we can deal with our own selves. And in fact, there is laxity in the Constitution that gives them the room of maneuvering to disagree and agree with each other on issues and come to some finality. While you're watching Election 360, we are ranting because of developments in Parliament. Roland and Alfred is with me.
Katie has really gotten on your six.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, you know, but then again, you share and in fact reflect the sentiments of many people. I mean, right now it's quite clear that the two sides are entrenched in their position. There is no way any of them is going to back down, and that's where I agree with Martin Pebbles' recommendation. Negotiation. There has to be some negotiation. There has to be some compromise as well going forward. As to who is going to lead the process of negotiation to lead to that compromise, a number of people have called on the president to do so. It appears the president really, at least, hasn't shown any sign that he's bothered about what's happening in Parliament, even though all the bills that we're seeing, and in fact, apart from the bills, we have two Supreme Court nominees by the president himself, whose approval is pending
from Parliament,
because of this standoff that we're seeing as well. So we've had the Council of State call on the Speaker. We don't have any record of the Council of State calling on the NPP caucus leader and the NDC caucus leader. In fact, who are the main architects of this situation that we find ourselves in Parliament. Well, if you meet the Speaker and you meet the Chief Justice and you don't meet the leaders of the two caucuses, then you have left out a bigger chunk of the entire mediation approach that the Council of State, in fact, is mandated to do. That's why we're paying them, right? But as we speak now, nothing of the sort has happened as far as we do know.
Well, what we also are sure of is that there definitely will be another recall of Parliament, but we do not know when, because it is indefinite. And whenever there is a recall, you can tell that the state expends money, which is actually something they could decide shouldn't be happening. also there is the certainty that the NPP is struggling and has struggled to whip all of its members in line to come to Parliament because they are busily campaigning. And in fact, some NPP MPs have, you know, in confidentiality, given indications that some of these kinds of recalls are hampering their campaign activities in their various constituencies.
And you're right.
So,
honestly,
it's such a burdensome challenge for them.
Because,
you know,
that's true.
There's some 30 days to the election.
Yeah.
And November 14, they were supposed to rise and go and continue their campaign. Look, as of now, the only concern for these MPs, those who are seeking re-election, a number of the MPs, about almost 80 or 90 of them of this 8th Parliament, are not going to return in the 9th Parliament.
Yeah.
But you have the greater majority also seeking re-election. And now their focus is on the ground.
Yeah, and younger people who are battling them in their constituency. So it's such a...
Well, I think that also brought in also means that because of our long year strategy to cover this election, we started off with a number of in-studio analysis, then we went to the various constituencies with community manifesto, and then comprehensively for news and current affairs, we had the various platforms, the key points, Ghana Tonight, and then even Election360 all coming into board. And so we have been to the various communities of these very constituencies. You go in there, you speak to either side of the political divide within their strongholds, and then you tend to gauge the sentiment. You get to know what the main concerns are for even the strongholds, what they want those they elect into public office or into Parliament to do for them. It also means that because both sides are hard-pressed for time, these type of stalemates should not be invited.
Absolutely.
And I think that is why considerations need to be made for some of the council or advisors, for example, being given by Dr. Mwakoba this morning, who says that ideally we should have a figure like the president, if not that his party in Parliament has taken a very entrenched position to be speaking to his former colleague who is now the Speaker of Parliament because they have a personal relationship that goes beyond the borders of just the political relationship to be able to resolve some of these disputes.
Well, we wait to see how all of this plays out. You're still on Election360 on TV3. We've just come away from Parliament and still talking about Parliament. Alfred, in about 2 minutes, run us through the outstanding bills and items that Parliament currently needs, this 8th Parliament needs to look through before they rise.
There are a number of one district, one factory companies that are hoping to get tax exemptions to the tune of over $350 million. That's a contentious one because even the Finance Committee of Parliament disagreed on it until there was some back and forth before it's even been made up, is forwarded to the plenary. We'll see whether that can come to fruition. The Ghana Financial Stability Fund, in fact, is an IDA facility of $250 million. This one is also crucial because this stability, the Financial Stability Fund, is that fund that the government put in place to cushion the financial institutions that were heavily impacted by the domestic debt exchange program, and then also this financial sector cleanup. This was a promise made to them that government was going to come to their aid because of the impact of the DDEP. And as we speak, a number of the banks are slowly recovering from the impact of the domestic debt exchange program because they were heavily exposed to government securities as a result of that declaration of this debt exchange. Also, there are the urgent bills, as we're saying, the Environmental Protection Agency Bill 2024, the Social Protection Bill 2023, and the Customs Amendment Bill, budget. The budget bill is what you spoke about, that will stipulate the first quarter budget for the year 2025, Ghana Boundary Commission Bill, Interstate Succession Bill, and there is also, in fact, the one that would seeks to merge the Voter Review Authority and also the Bui and the Buipo Authority. Now, you know that the senior staff of the VRA have been vehemently against that particular bill. And obviously, if it's not going to happen, they'll be happy. ECG and NEDCO are also supposed to be merged. There's a bill that is pending as well in that regard. So there's a lot that's happening. And
I mean, topical also, it looks as though all of a sudden the Galamsey conversation has doused greatly. Many people have stopped talking about it. But in Parliament, Alfred mentioned the Environmental Protection Agency Bill 2024, which was looking at repealing the LI that allowed people to mine in forest reserves. That is also very topical and key for the current Parliament to repeal before they rise. Well, a lot of these things are still up in the air. We are trying to help you get understanding as these issues settle. We do not know how it's going to play out for Parliament in the next few days, but that will be it for Election 360 on TV3. I've been here with Alfredo Kanse and then also Roland Walker, and I'm Martinez Yedudate. Up next is News Central. Thank you for watching, and as always, hasta la vista.